you played better than me the whole day. You just you dropped 3 in the last 3, right? And it wasn't like I didn't go, oh, fuck yeah, I beat Scotty. Like, as I said, I had my own battle.
All right, Jay, welcome back. This is our post-tournament podcast review reflection. The first thing I'm going to start with, and I probably should have mentioned this yesterday, I asked you to do one thing for us, before we started the tournament, and that was to print a yardage book.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to tell us what happened there?
Well, I did print the yardage books, and I was well organised. And then when we arrived and we got on that 10th tee, which is, what is it, like 310 metres or something? I looked at the yardage book and it was like 37 metre par 4. I was like, whoa, I don't remember that looking through this golf course, and that does not suit my game whatsoever. And then when, maybe that's the first hole, because we'd teed off 10 for the practice round. I thought, maybe that's the first hole, let's have a look. Then the first hole was like a 484 metre par 4. Hold up. Wait a minute.
So we had a quick look through the yardage book, and it was the wrong course.
Yeah, there must be another Windross farm somewhere in the world. A lot harder too, possibly, than the one that we had the benefit of playing, thankfully.
So I didn't do much study on the Google Earth because I was going to rely on that yardage book quite heavily. I don't think it made a difference ultimately, Jay, but I'd like you to just feel a little bit of blame for that. So,
well, I would say it's one of those things where, as an athlete like yourself, you'd take personal responsibility for that.
I did. I messaged you 6 times to say, can you print a yardage book? Have you got the yardage book?
But that's the least you can do, right? Like in a preparation round. Quite frankly, it was a test, and I'm disappointed with the outcome. So you'll learn next time.
You didn't show me your yardage book. Oh, you probably had the right one, and you gave me the wrong one.
Mine was perfect. Did you think it was odd that during the tournament I kept looking at it? No, I don't know what happened there, because I don't even think there were 2 Windross farms. I think it was the right one.
No,
although
very strange.
Neither of us took it with us, so I should have a look at it now that I know the course. I should have a look and see how far off it was. And maybe it would have helped us. The wrong book. There is that story about, you know where I'm going here, that tournament. I
don't, no.
The caddy had the wrong pin sheet, or the day before pin sheet, or they teed off 9 and he was giving the players pins from 1 to whatever. And the guy was 4 under or something through the 9 holes before either of them realised they'd been going off the wrong pin sheet. There you go, backs up the middle of the green.
Oh, good.
Might be one of those wives' tales as well.
We could start there. I reckon the middle of green probably would have helped me through our now 1-round tournament. Although, Jay, actually leads me to something else before we get into it. We both played 27 holes of golf.
And
someone made a great point and say, didn't you beat Jay overall over the 27 holes? So someone reminded me that I was actually ahead of you over the 27 holes, and we did sign up for 2 rounds, and we completed 27 holes each.
You familiar with cricket at all?
No.
Duckworth-Lewis system, anything like that? So what happens when they call it off to a 18-hole event? It becomes, as the title suggests, an 18-hole event. So it's actually, like when you get a rain.
Duckworth-Lewis would have had you starting at 1 over and me starting at even using the Duckworth-Lewis system.
I think the Duckworth-Lewis system would have had me at 1 under and you probably about 3 over. Because I was in the hole before the rain came out, you see. Yeah, that is a good point, and it's a shame that wasn't the tournament. I mean, we could count the practice round too if you wanted to count that. And maybe that round at Te Puke, we could count that and see if you wanted to count that one.
I'm happy to count them all at the moment.
Or we could just look at the leaderboard and have a look.
Yeah, so go into that. When did you... Firstly, actually, you made a prediction in the morning that you were going to shoot 77.
Yes.
Which I did think was a bit generous and a little bit on the safe side.
Yes.
At what point through the round, if you thought at all, did you think, I'm safe, I'm well inside the 77? Did it cross your mind at all during the round?
Nah. No, it didn't. I think I was just sort of hanging on most of the round, probably, would be the way to describe it. Yeah. So I was 2 over through 9, so I was probably on track for 77.
Yeah, you had a lovely back 9, didn't you?
I think I was 1 under the par of the golf course.
Mm-hmm. You were.
But yeah, and your prediction was?
I predicted 73 and had 74.
I thought you predicted 71. Oh, 71 on day 1.
Yeah, and then I changed it to 73. But I was on track for 71 with 3 holes to go, so I thought, damn, my prediction's going to be way off. And I ended up going the other side of it. Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about your data that you had a look at this morning and how that sort of helped maybe inform your reflection, or how did it match up to your reflections that you had after the round?
Well, I guess there's a couple of things there. The reflections for me were probably more around behaviours, and not trying to be like a woke knob or anything, but like the outcome's not important and all that stuff, because the outcome, like that's the main thing. But for me, what was important was there's a number of ways. I shot 73. There's probably a number of ways that I could shoot 73, and most players could get, like, let's say 36 points. And you made a good point. Like, imagine on that day going, right, one day we're going to play here and it's driver only on every hole. And you could possibly make 5 or 6 birdies, but you'd probably make 5 or 6 bogeys or doubles as well, because you could get in a whole lot of trouble. And then another day you could go, right, maximum club today's 4-iron, and you'd probably shoot about the same score because you wouldn't make as many bogeys, but you probably might not make as many birdies. So for me, the reflection was mainly around stepping towards some of those demons, which I made a start to. The next level is not just stepping towards them, but still being able to perform with them, which I didn't think I did a great job of. But I lost 4.06 shots in total. So strokes gained would have had, and strokes gained is based purely on length. I mean, it's the best guess. It's still not a perfect science, and there's all sorts of people that can tell you why, but it's probably the best analytics tool that we have. So I lost 4.06. 3.71 of those were off the tee. I hit it in 2 hazards. One of them, an absolute shocker, just a big hook off the tee into the hazard. But the other one wasn't actually, I didn't feel like it was a massively bad drive. And it didn't feel yippy, so that was right. On number 2, I just hit into that creek on the right. And then on 12, I hit it into the hay on the right-hand side of the fairway and basically had to chip out. So you could kind of go, of the 3.71, there was possibly a few of them there. I gained 1.1 in approach play. I hit 13 greens. So like you and I were talking throughout the round, like that's the goal, hit 12 greens. I had a couple close on the front 9, but I missed those ones. And then I think I missed 3 on the front 9 and 2 on the back 9, 2 greens. And then putting, I lost 1.52, which, as you said, it didn't seem like I putted that bad. But I did miss a couple of, not short putts, but a couple of, let's say, 6 to 8 footers on the front 9, or a couple of 6 footers probably on 4 and 5. And that'll mean that's probably over a shot gone just in those 2 putts. So all in all, pretty happy. It's made me reflect and work towards, and there's probably one particular shot that I got some good learning out of. But we can come to that later. Give me your rundown.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just before we do, I think it is important to note that they did tell us there were going to be some funky pins out there, and you kind of made a point. I probably didn't recognise that. It felt like I was putting pretty poorly, but you did make a note that there were some funky pins, and there were quite a few on some small little shelves, and there was a little bit of slope around some of them. So that probably added to, it would have been pretty cool to see someone a positive strokes gain. They would have felt like they're putting the lights out.
Yeah.
I think out there. So probably a point to add. And on that as well, you did mention the course, like you can play it, you can take driver everywhere or 4-iron everywhere. What a cool course. It was such a fun course. I really did enjoy it. And at one point I kind of hit an iron off the tee into the fairway, and I made a joke. I was like, I'm not sure if I'll find that. Can I hit a provisional? Just because I wanted to do both options. I was kind of torn. I was like, oh, I've got this strategy and I want to stick to my plan, but what a fun course. I want to hit driver or 3-wood and have a crack. So It would be a cool course, I think, to play. And I think you mentioned as well the different tees, not just length, but they're different angles too. So you could play the next set forward and it almost changes the hole completely. All of a sudden, this bunker's not right in front of you. It's off to the right or off to the left. So what a really enjoyable course, and it was set up really nicely and in pretty nice condition too.
Yeah, I think that's done a great job because the clubhouse is cool too, eh? Like,
Yeah.
certainly on that practice round when it was a lovely evening and the members are sitting outside and 18th green sort of right there. And it's just, I thought it was really cool, yeah. Anyway, about your round.
Yeah. So immediately afterwards, I was very disappointed. And I mentioned to you, going in, I'd kind of mentally prepared that I could have a bad day with the driver or off the tee. And obviously, if I wasn't a driver well, I would have to adapt and come up with another option. But I hit 11 fairways, and there was really only one tee shot that I lost strokes gained. So the two that I missed the fairway were just into the rough, but long enough to still put me positive strokes gained. And
What
I
hole did you
mentally
lose strokes
prepared
on?
that the ninth hole. So I hit the 4-iron off the tee, but it was out of bounds right. And we did identify the day before that you can hit it down the left, which was the first fairway. And I kind of aimed down the left side of the fairway and hit it fairly straight, and it rolled into the rough, which was some of the lighter rough on the course. And again, identified that that was actually okay to hit it there. So by marking it down as rough, it came up as negative strokes gained, negative 0.2. But I don't know if I've ever played around where that was the worst drive I hit at negative 0.2. So that was pretty cool. I mentally prepared for having a bad day off the tee, and I didn't. I drove it really nicely. I hit every fairway apart from one when I hit driver, which again is unusual for me, but felt like it was going really nicely. I sort of mentally prepared that I might not strike it that well and hit a couple of duds in the warm-up where you're kind of a bit thin or a bit fat. And I was like, that could happen on the course, and I'm okay. I'll accept that. I know my wedge game isn't that strong, but one thing I didn't really consider is having a poor day on the putting greens, and that's kind of what happened. So when I finished and eventually holed out on the last, it was just disappointment. I was just really gutted because I loved playing and I loved everything about it apart from the fact that I couldn't get the ball in the hole. And it was frustrating, and I was just disappointed. So that was kind of my immediate reflection. I ended up losing 5 strokes around the green. 5 strokes
On the
on the
green.
green. 5 strokes on the green. I hit my putter 37 times. Not all of them were on the green, but the fringes were nice and firm and pretty tightly mown, and there was also placing on the fairway. So I felt like they were really just putts anyway. They didn't. None of the ones from the fringes affected, were impacted by being through the fairway. They rolled just as if they were on the green. So yeah, hitting my putter 37 times wasn't really something I considered I might do, but felt really lost over the ball. Didn't really see anything going in, and nothing did go in. So yeah, but disappointing. But gained
Yeah.
about 1 shot off the tee. I lost I lost 2.6 in approaches, and I'll break that down as well. I gained 1.5 around the greens, and that's because I hold a shot where I gained 1.5 on that shot.
That was a hell of a shot.
That was a cool shot, and yeah, as I said, lost 5 strokes putting. I did break down the approach to the greens because I thought that told a better story, and I have that in front of me here. So from 60 to 100 meters, I lost 1.8 strokes. From 100 to 120, I lost 1 stroke. And from 120 plus, I only lost 0.3 of a stroke. So I felt
Yeah.
like I struck it really nicely, which I did, and that kind of backs that up. One of my tee shots, I lost 0.6, which sent that into the negative. We're getting quite into the data here, but
Whoops.
I think that sort of tells a pretty clear story. Like I struck it really nicely, hit it really nicely, and just couldn't get the ball one close to the hole with my wedges or in the hole with my putter.
Yeah. Like we talked about in the car, I don't think you could put the blame on your putter completely. I thought you were out of position a little bit. particularly as your stats pointed out there, particularly from clubs that you shouldn't be out of position from. But equally, in saying that, you did hit it beautifully. And a friend of ours, Matt Henderson, messaged me to see how we went on. How we got on. And I said, Matt's a cricketer. So I used a cricket analogy for him. And like the other night on the podcast when I said to you, you want to beat someone when they're at their best. And it genuinely, like you played better than me the whole day. You dropped 3 in the last 3, right? And it wasn't like I didn't go, oh, fuck yeah, I beat Scotty. Like, you know, as I said, I had my own battle. But I felt
it did feel like you felt a bit sorry for me on the last hole
I did
when I
feel
had
sorry for
an
you.
11-footer for birdie. You're like, come on, Scotty, make this. Like, I did feel like, oh, you feel sorry for me.
But there was a bit of empathy, let's say, rather than pity.
Yeah.
But I said to Hendo, I said it would be like Mark Waugh and Mark Richardson batting together and putting on 100.
Ricky Ponting? I never liked Mark Waugh.
Didn't you? Yeah, okay. Ricky Ponting. It'd be like Ricky Ponting and Mark Richardson batting together, and they put on 151 to open, or let's say they put on 147 for the opening partnership. And Mark Richardson, and I love Mark Richardson, by the way. So, Mark, if you listen to this, I read your book thinking negatively as a kid, and have always enjoyed your take on things. So this is by no means a critique, but he had 3 shots and 3 pretty limited shots, but he was scrappy and fighty, and he knew his game, and he played his game, and he got the job done. And that was probably me. It was a bit messy. It was a bit ugly. It was a guy rolling around on the ground screaming. And you were just graceful and timing everything beautifully, and it looked so easy. But unfortunately, you probably got out for the same score that I got out for. So, yeah, it was disappointing because, like we joked, if Kazuma had a hit, had have played every shot after the tee shot, holy shit, he would have won by plenty, even with the funky pins. So yeah, that was probably, I did feel for you because, you played really nicely. I would love to have played like you played.
Thank you. One of my keys for success, and generally is, especially with the courses like Tauranga, out of bounds, kind of follows you around the course. Te Puke's quite narrow, the main 2 courses that I play. If I keep it in play off the tee, then I generally score pretty well. So one of my keys to success was that. We talked about the keys to success, or keys for success. And I kept it in play beautifully. And the 3 fairways I missed, they were all fine. Like, one of them was on a par 5 where we still had 270, and the rough that was in wasn't too penal. And the other 2 were just a wedge into the green from the rough from, not too difficult to lie. So it was pretty disappointing that I nailed one of my keys for success and failed miserably to convert that into a score.
It also shows you how we can become biased on our own golf and forget the bigger picture. That there are going to be days when we're going to drive it poorly, hit it poorly, wedge poorly, chip poorly, putt poorly. But we've still got to have ways in which we can deal with that. So, you can't... you can build a game around strengths, I think. And I guess you're never going to have your game perfectly. On one thing that I thought highlighted for me is how poor our preparation was in the practice round. And we were a bit time pressed because on the front line we had people right behind us the whole time. And we even joined a group, and then, it was under the pump. And we were also under the pump with darkness. But that 4th hole, to me, highlighted we just didn't know. We hadn't done a good enough job. And I can honestly say that even with time, I still don't think I would have done a good enough job around the greens and it's funny for me, as one of my takeaways over the last couple of months, is I don't think the players prep well enough. They go through the motions a bit in practice rounds, which then I did too. in that practice round. So that was a really key learning of just being a bit smarter. Like that pin was right on the front, and the green kind of has 3 waves to it. And because it was right on the front, you'd generally think, oh, well, I'll hit this past the pin because. And I had I had probably a 6-footer there, but it was that gnarly downhill left to right, just down the tier basically from 6 feet to the pin that was cut on the tier. Thanks, Denver, appreciate that. But actually missing it 10 yards short on to your point around the fringes being firm and cut tight would have been pretty easy, probably as easy a putt as what I had from 6 feet. So that was one thing for me to go, I reckon we possibly would have been better, and this is going to sound old school and I'll get some hate for this, but I wonder if we would have been better just walking the course and looking around a bit more and paying a bit more attention and being a bit more intentional about what we were trying to learn. Because when you play your home course all the time, you know that stuff intuitively, and I don't even think you go through the process of thinking about it, but you know it. Like on 7 at Tauranga, you know that to that front right pin, short right kicks up, and you can roll it around the bank and feed it in. But if it's your first time there, or over the back's not bad to that back pin because you've got a little bit of a backstop. But you have to be mapping greens pretty well or doing a pretty good job of your work to know that. And I think we weren't great. So that'll be our work on for the next tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Like that 4th hole, for example, I was kind of in between, and I knew the flag was at the front. I was at wedge, was at 9, ended up hitting a smooth 9, hit it past, and I had to go over or come back down the 3 waves. It did go a little further than I'd hoped, but I also thought, I don't want to be short here. But if I had that shot again now, it's just wedge, cool, come up short. It's never going to go past the hole, and I take out the 3 waves coming back. Another one that sort of got me was 10, that flag that we had, that sort of back leftish flag. The pin sheet didn't say exactly where that was, and got a bit confused by the pin sheet. I didn't end up striking it very well, but I would have changed my aim point or my target anyway, based on where that flag actually was and what was around the green.
See, that's an interesting one for me because I remember that flag because it wasn't dissimilar to where we played in the practice round, I don't think. That was up on that shelf. And from the angle that I was on, I had a pretty clear picture of the whole thing. And that was actually just going, this is a hard shot to get it onto that tier. But the front tier was so steep that I didn't think I think I was 100 from memory. Hard to run it up that tier from 100. So that one there, I knew that was a bit of a cranky pin, and so I took a little bit less lob, went aggressive to try and make sure I had it hard enough to get up there and stop up there. So I went for a max yardage. But that's quite fun, I think, when you've got that shot that you're like, shit, this is hard. I've got a 54-degree wedge, I think I hit then, but it's like, man, I'm going to hit this. I don't have to because it's not, still too puttable. Better preparation would have helped. But Jimmy Napier talked about, I think he hit it over the back of that pin, over the back of the green rather, and he may well have held it, I think, but anyway, that I would have thought, man, that's pretty close to dead. Being where you were at the front was probably better than being over the back. But I think there's sometimes where you've actually just got to sack up.
Yeah. You probably could have just gone straight at a few of them rather than play. And that pin, for example, you kind of use your decade target, but understanding that you can go, I can go straight at it because the short side miss is not that bad.
Well, I suspect that pin we probably could have gone straight at anyway with decade, right? It was probably 5 from the edge.
Yep.
We both had about 100, and as you say, the short side. Well, there was sort of 4 short sides there with where that was cut.
True. I did have a note on what I noticed a little bit, and you mentioned a little bit, but one thing for me, and we've talked a little bit about this with you driving it in the sim, you've just got this full release, like nice big full follow through. It looks like the club's got plenty of speed. I did think that you almost look like you steered a couple on that, and I was trying to think exactly what tee that kind of sprung to mind. There were a couple that you did go all the way through, and it kind of looked
Where
like
was
the sim
that?
swing.
Remember,
On
because that's going to lead into my story, I hope.
cool. It was definitely on 6. 6 was really nice.
Yeah.
Um,
That was possibly the best drive I've had in my life.
yeah,
Left to right
we've got a
wind,
video
held
to
it
prove
up.
that too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and for the record, if you do post that video, I didn't know you were videoing,
You didn't know I was videoing,
just as
no.
a disclaimer.
But yeah, 6 was one that was like, oh, that looked like the sim swing. And then I'm trying to remember what it was. Maybe it was 8. You were a bit flustered on 8. It wasn't 8. Or potentially the back 9, where there was one that the result was okay, but it almost looked like a little steery. It was almost like just trying to guide it down there. Maybe you'll jog my memory. I was trying to remember, but I didn't remember what hole it was that it kind of stuck with me.
The one that stuck with me was the par 5, 14.
Yeah.
Because it was the wind off the right, and I'd hit a couple of left balls, and there's OB left there. And I'd actually just hit a really nice approach into 8 after I took the drop out of the hazard. I flushed that. I flushed it down 9, but I pushed it. I hit one of those, cover drive type. I hit that 8 iron into there pure. And then on 10, I hit that lovely shot and made birdie. And then 11, I hit a couple of nice ones. And then I had that bad drive on 12. Anyway, I'm not going to take you through my whole round. But then 13, I flushed it. And I missed that part. And I thought, fuck, there's something close here. And then there was the temptation to just guide it down 14, the par 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought, I have to really nail this to get it over that bunker. Otherwise, my driver is just literally, I'm going to drive it straight into the bunker. And so I went full noise at that. And that one was probably the best strike and flight that I reckon I hit all day. The 6th was my favourite because it was into a left to right wind. But I wasn't massively behind you, I don't think, on that par 5. Which
no,
normally
it was only a couple of meters, yeah.
Most holes, yeah.
Yeah, it was only a couple of meters.
And so that made me, that was my reflection after that was,
I think
I had 176, so 8 meters, but that's a lot less than it usually is. But that was my reflection of, I went hard at that because, which is why I was linking back to those shots I hit on 8, 9, and 13, in particular, the 3 iron shots that I flushed. I underclubbed intentionally on all 3 of them and flushed all 3 of them. And so I think there was an element of, and to me, that fits with the courage thing of going at this.
You had a beautiful shot on that 13th, the par 3, and funnily enough, in the practice round, it was sort of back left or middle left flag. And as we walked off past the back right, there's this little tiny tear, and we're like, oh, that's a funky pin. And luckily, we kind of made a note because we're like, actually, right of the green is probably better than down the tear in the middle of the green. And I aimed mine sort of at the back bunker. Wind was off the left with the intention of the wind pushing it. It kind of just flew pretty straight, just landed at the bottom of the tear and stayed there. And then you've just gone straight at it and it hasn't left the flag. You've hit it to about 6 or 7 feet, I think. And it was such a good shot. Yeah.
Yeah, that was lovely because I went with 7 iron, which you did too. And again, I'm normally a club length behind you. So I knew I had to hit it good. So yeah, there's something in that for me which I want to explore, going a little bit harder at it. I don't know harder, but more assertive maybe.
Yeah, because it didn't.
Because if I rip
like
it, I lose sequencing, and then it's just a shit show.
Yeah, okay. It didn't look like you were going after it, which was cool. It was just like pure strike, and I noted like a couple of the sounds was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it just makes you want to play more though, eh? It's like a drug.
One of the notes I did have is that I'm excited to play more events after that, and one of the big takeaways for me is it was cool to execute some, especially drivers, because that's one for me as well. I can get a bit nervy. And I don't think over the 2 days I missed a driver to the right. Can you remember me missing a driver to the right? I don't know if I missed a driver to the right, which is usually like I get the big yuck one. So I was really, really happy with the way that I drove it, and for the most part, my option taking, there are a couple of things I'd take back off the tee, but for the most part, yeah, really happy with the way I drove it, and that kind of excites me because, as I've said, one of my keys for success is if I can keep it in play, I feel like I've got a chance. So if that continues, then I'll be very excited to play more events.
Yeah, and I think for you, one thing I would love is for you to think less, like we talked about in the car, and that's a hard one, but or how can you simplify it? Go rather than having, and that goes back to that Mark Richardson, Ricky Ponting option. Like, you've probably got a lot of shots in the bag that you can hit, and therefore you sort of go through all of them. Whereas Mark Richardson kind of, if you don't pitch it where he wants to hit it, he's just going to leave it. And so, and that you see that's the tyranny of the talent, right? That's a bit of a challenge for those who have the talent that can hit multiple shots. Is how do I decide which one to hit? And sometimes I think that gets in your way. And that's probably where speed golf is actually quite good for you because, you do. I think we use a thing. Well, not we use. I think I might have said it on the podcast before, actually, but I think it's Mark Bennett, an English coach developer, came up with it, and it's commit, decision, execution. And the first question you ask yourself is, did I commit to that shot? And if the answer is no, well then, that's your problem, and you probably dive into, okay, what was it about that meant that you didn't commit? But the second question would be, was it a decision error or an execution error? And so if we pick a shot of yours, where were we talking about it? Where you hit, I thought, too much club. You hit you hit 5 on into 17, and I hit 6, and Sam hit 6. And you go, did you commit to that shot? So then, was it a decision or an execution error, or was it a combination of both?
You're asking me, or is this sort of the process?
That would be the process, but what would you think the answer is?
I pulled it a touch, but I think the target that I chose allowed for that. And ultimately, the liner finished on, if it was the right club, would have been okay. It would have been just a touch left of the flag, but it would have been on the green. There was still room to spare. But because of the club that I hit, so poor decision, meant that it went long because the green was kind of sloped a little bit from front left to back right. So on the line it ended up missing long left.
So there you go. Oh, that was a decision error. Because as you say, like, execution is basically, was it good enough? Like, it's not like you're trying to flush every shot.
And I struck it really nicely and flighted it nicely, kind of the way that I was hoping to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then when you go through your round and you go, okay, did I commit? Nah. Oh, well. So you might have 5 Cs on your card, a few Ds and a few Es. And the Es are a tough one because it's a skill. It's all a skill, but the execution is relative to how you're hitting it on the day. But if you're seeing a few Ds where you're kind of going, man, I feel like I'm hitting good shots, but I'm not getting the outcomes that I want, well, your chances are, like for me, I probably have more Cs than I should. Like, I probably don't commit enough. But I suspect you'd have more Ds where you kind of go, that was a pretty good shot. And then sometimes you'll go, like on 4 would be the other example.
Mm-hmm.
You can justify why you did what you did. Like, you can make sense of it. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to pin it on something.
Yeah, so that 4 was the day before where it was straight downwind. It was about 290 to the front of the green, and the penalty area on the right-hand side was about 240 to carry. I was hitting it fairly well, and downwind with a bit of spin, it would have carried that. I didn't have a doubt that it was going to carry that. And the main concern was the bunker in the middle. And if I kind of thought, if it goes in there, okay, I'll chip out and I'm still 20 or 30 meters from the green. But I got up there and the penalty area was actually like 260 to carry. And I landed between, generously, maybe an 8-meter gap. And I did hit it dead straight, and it landed in an 8-meter gap between the bunker and the penalty area. And I ended up getting away with it. So executed it, but terrible decision. Once as I got halfway down the fairway, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I was lucky.
And the other thing I reckon that is worth considering, especially for you and I, like we put a lot of energy into this, like we both practiced and planned and we were excited, and we only ended up playing one round. Like you think about like a life of a tour player, they play probably 9 holes Tuesday, they travel Monday, 9 holes Tuesday, 9 holes Wednesday, do a lot of practice, get their game in order, play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then repeat the process the next day. So my question to you would be, if we had to tee it up again tomorrow, practice round tomorrow for a new event the next day, what does your day look like tomorrow? Because now you've got do you do any work on your game? Like, you highlighted putting and maybe wedge play. Where does that fit? How does that prioritize against getting to know the course versus maintaining the driving that you've got? So what would your next day or two look like in terms of training?
So we're playing today, or playing tomorrow?
Today, Scott, because it's 9:30 at night. We're dark.
But the day, so we're finished today. Have we got an event tomorrow at a new course?
Let's say a practice round tomorrow.
Oh, practice round tomorrow?
So we've had the day off today. We've travelled, which we both have. You're back home and I'm nearly back home.
During the practice round I would
practice day tomorrow.
Want to do a bit of maintenance with driving because it was going really well. So, okay, cool. Maintain that. I don't need to work on anything. Just maintain that. As the ball position still the same, as my grip still the same, tempo still the same. They were kind of the three things for me that felt like they were in a really nice place. And spend some time on the greens. It'll be a little bit of an emergency because that's the way that I feel at the moment with the putting. And while it wasn't all to blame, I also just couldn't see a putt go in. And the classic example of that is I had it to a few feet on the par 5. Had a beautiful drive, beautiful 6-iron to a few feet for eagle. And our playing partner, he chipped it right next to my ball, had the exact same putt, and he rolled it dead centre. And I kind of snuck in and had a look. And I got over the ball and I couldn't see it go in. And I've just seen the ball roll dead centre. So I would want to spend a bit of time. There would probably be a little bit of searching on the putting green because I don't know where it kind of went wrong. Like it felt like I was starting it online. My pace wasn't great, but the pace wasn't great, I think, because I couldn't see a line. So I was almost too scared to give it any pace. So I'm not too sure, but I'd definitely spend some time on the putting green. And if we had 20 or 30 balls on the range, I don't think any of them would be with a club longer than a pitching wedge. And I'd pick some targets and try and come up with a quick wedge matrix and go, okay, if I'm there to there, I've got a rough idea of how far that's going, whether that's getting a laser to where the ball finishes and have an estimate of its landing spot or something like that. That would be the two key areas of massive improvement. And as I said, just maintaining with the driver in particular.
We'll often use exploit, explore, execute, and as sort of a theme. And so exploit what you're already good at. So, and that can come and go a little bit, but maybe at the moment you exploit your driver. So if it was me and I was caddying for you or coaching you, I'd be going, right, well, how can we exploit this golf course? There's some short par 5s, make the most of them. Instead of using the word searching, I'd probably prefer explore, because searching sounds like you've actually got no idea where this, and you're trying to find the silver bullet.
I did actually use that word by design, because that's kind of how I walked off yesterday. No idea. I don't think I've ever walked off not ever been able to see a line of a putt or get a feel for the speed after a whole round of golf. Definitely struggled on holes or groups of holes before, but yeah, I did feel really lost on the putting greens. So I did use the word searching
intentionally
by design. Intentionally.
So you could do some interesting stuff around that. You could explore some things, and Rich Master's work of errorless learning would be one of his things to do. So, go and hit some putts from a foot. Just get used to seeing it roll over that foot. I know it sounds silly, but used to seeing it go in, used to hearing it go in.
Do you
Explore
know,
some.
Jay,
Yes.
that I went back to my line yesterday. Play yesterday. Yeah, I went back to my line yesterday on the shorter putts because I had some putts on the putting green, and I like to hit some for sort of 3 or 4 feet because there's an element of speed for that too, and I was struggling with the speed, and some with some little bits of break, and some are just missing the hole clean. So I went back to my lines because it gave me something to focus on, and I thought, you know what? I've never believed in this, but I'm going to go and hit a couple of 1-footers. And I went up to the 1-footer and I missed the first one. And I kind of just hit one more and it went in, but I was like, oh, I don't want to do this too many more times because that first one worried me a little bit. Carry on.
Well, actually, I was talking to a friend the other day who was about to play in a tournament, and he was saying, "Man, I'm really struggling with 3-footers at the moment. I just can't seem to get them in the hole." And I said to him, "There's absolutely no point in hitting a 3-footer before you go out and play, because if you're not putting very well, it does nothing for your confidence because you just think, oh, I'm like there's an element of relief that it's gone in, and you're searching, hoping that all of that magic 3-footer is like me searching for driver on the driving range, right? But the 3-footer, if you hold it, you're meant to hold it, and it's just relief, and it actually doesn't give you any confidence whatsoever. In fact, all that energy, whether it goes in or not, is used because there's anxiety that comes with the relief as well. So you go through the same emotional process whether it goes in or not, and you're hoping you could hit 9 putts from 3 feet on the putting green before you go out, and the hope that, oh yes, now maybe today's my day and I've found it. But then you miss one and your world is shattered. And it's not a skill that you need to teach yourself. I don't believe. This is not based on science. It's just my opinion. You know how to hit a 3-foot putt. You know how to start the ball on line from 3 feet and for it to go in. It is not really anything that you need to do before you tee off. And so, yeah, I'd be reluctant to be hitting 3 and 4 footers. I think you're just using one would be using way too much energy on something that's actually not going to help. So I'd be really trying to dull down that stimulus in terms of pre-play. And yeah, try the 1-footer. Just make sure it's a straight up hit one that you can't miss.
No break.
Any sort of errorless learning, or hit them from 30 feet and just get your speed and just scoop it up when it goes next to the hole. You don't need to put it out. You know how to do that.
What would your day look like based on the way that you played?
I'd probably spend more time on the course because I think a lot of mine would be commitment stuff. I'd probably want to. I think it's easier to commit when you've got a clear plan. I think that a little bit of Jonah Oliver will say ambiguity is the enemy, and that's what I think gets in your head. And I'm not having a crack at you because I think you could be way better than I could be. But that ambiguity becomes, oh, shit, 6 or 7. I could have probably hit 8. It actually is the enemy, which is what I was saying before about Mark Richardson. So, and same for me. So I'd go and have a really clear plan that worked in my strengths. Now, a couple of times you and I were talking on the course, we might have hit shots that probably weren't quite the right shot, but they were stepping into the space that we didn't want to be. And so that was part of the reason why we were playing. So there's an element of that. I would have probably played the course differently had it been gun to your head, shoot the lowest score, but that wasn't why we were there. And I'm not saying I would have shot a lower score by any stretch. So I would spend more time on course with committing, and for me to be able to commit, I need to have a clear plan and clear targets, which is why I think it's easier around your home course because you know stuff.
Yeah. It's
Equally, you
interesting
know where the
with
danger
that.
is.
So I ended up double bogeying the 17th. It was 151, 150, 149,
151,
something like that. and it was into the breeze. There was penalty area, water on the left of the green, and I knew short was okay because I hit one short in the practice round, and it was fine. The flag was front. I did think, well, my 6 usually goes 160, and a little bit of the thinking has come to, you kind of blew my mind a little bit when it came up with that rangefinder that you used where it told you about how much the wind affects it. And I thought, well, it's more than 10 meters from this far away. My 6 iron goes 160 and it's 150, but it's into a pretty strong breeze. So I did think that 6 iron might just stall and come up quite a bit short. So I didn't actually have any doubts on my decision. I wasn't like standing over the ball going, oh, is it 6? I was actually like, no, it is 5. So I don't, in that case, I'm not saying it was all the time, but in that case, it wasn't like, oh, maybe it's 6. Like I was like, it's 5, and I felt like I hit it pretty good. As I said, I pulled it a touch, but I felt like my target allowed for that. And yeah, like I already argued that if it was 6, it probably would have been pretty close to the hole. On the line, it was, if I had the same shot with a 6, but
How
it
far
was
do you
a
hit your
poor
5 on?
club choice. 180.
So I was 151. So that's 29 meters past the pin.
Yeah, I went
And
way down the grip.
yeah,
So
but then you may as
now
well hit
let's
6.
Nah, there's more loft, and I spin my irons quite a lot and hit them quite high.
Even so, I
So
don't
my fear
think.
into the wind, because I don't control my ball flight very well, is that I'm always just going to stall it up in the air and it's going to go nowhere.
And the pin was 151. How far on the green was it?
Was it 12 paces? I can't
12.
remember.
So
I don't.
yeah, at least
12-ish?
that. I can't remember either, but at
Yep.
least that. So now you're 140 to the front, and you said the front was fine. Even if you hit 6 and it stalled up, the worst it could have stalled up, it's going 140. It's on the front edge of the
Yeah,
green, and then there's
I
10
genuinely didn't
meters,
think that.
and then there's 10 meters short. And clearly you didn't think it, you
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
moron.
I know.
But and then that's when you go 3-putted the hole before that. You know that. How cloudy are you on that tee? How clear are you on that tee? And that's where, again, like we talked about, a caddy would help, because if you pulled 5 with me there, I'd be going, mate, it's 7 iron.
Yeah.
Because Sam had his 6, like, you know,
Yeah, he ballooned
partner, ballooned it, and
Yeah.
he was, what did he have, a 5-footer
Yeah.
past the pin, so it went 153.
Hmm.
And it's, hopefully you don't feel like I'm picking on you, and I'm only doing it because I think you could be, like, I maxed out probably at 73. Like, I didn't leave much out
No,
there
and I
apart
don't
from.
think you're picking on me at all. I think that's what this is kind of about. It's like to go through this journey and learn some stuff, because for me I've never really dug deep into the playing side, but I'm really enjoying it at the moment, and I love playing it. And I do want to be picked apart and go, you're an idiot. Why'd you do that? Because then I can go, all right, well, let's try not to do that again,
Yeah.
and hopefully get a little bit better.
And that's probably a good question. Not that you're an idiot, but why did you do it? Like, why did you not see the 140 was the front yardage? Because as soon as you say 140, now I think it'd be bloody hard to hit a 5-iron 140.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be the thing of, so what needs to happen in the process? Maybe you need to look at not just the number, because the greens were firm too. It's not like they were stopping, even into that wind. Sam still bounced short of the flag and rolled 5 or 6 feet past.
Yeah.
And he moonballed it.
Mm. Yep. Yeah, I don't know what needs to happen. There were a few times where I was a little bit flustered with, I had my GPS app, my GPS on my watch, and the rangefinder, and then I was trying to look at the pin sheet, and there was a lot going on. Whereas typically at a club course, you're like, oh, look at my watch, close enough. So there's an element of learning to deal with that and what's important. And clearly, I didn't check what the front of the green was. I kind of got the laser and I was like, oh, it's into the wind, 150, and that's obviously the only number I had in my head.
Yeah. And that goes back to that ambiguity, like the confusion. The pin sheets weren't fantastic, it has to be said. So that put a bit of doubt in our minds a few times, eh? So that doesn't help. And as you say, we're trying to look at the course map going, where do we hit it here? Because the tees got, sometimes they were way back, sometimes they were way forward, and you're like, oh shit, this is different. So all of that adds to that. So that's that's some good stuff for you to work on for the next one. I've just got to get better. I've just got to work on my skill.
So where does that start? Or, what's the first step for that for you? Because we talked about playing another event. I would love to. I'd really love to. It would be cool to play a 2-rounder or at least play 2 or 3 1-dayers in a row. What's the first step?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything on for the rest of the year. What I would love is, the old school sort of 2-man Ambrosy thing, but that lets me off the hook a little bit. So there's an element of that. But for me, if we had an event coming up, I'd keep doing the practice because I've enjoyed that. For me, I need to get my body right. My body is not in good enough shape. And that swing that you videoed on the practice round, I was like, man, that looks exactly how I feel. It looks like an old man who's struggling a little bit to get through the ball.
That was the first swing. I didn't even know if you had a warm-up swing. That was literally...
No, not that one. The one on 18.
After a 3 hour. Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, the one on 18. And it felt like that was probably one of the better ones of the day. So I'd work on my body. I'd still hit balls, but when I hit balls, my main focus when I was doing it was purely pre-shot routine, and hopefully my pre-shot routine was pretty consistent. Like I was doing breathing, and so I would do that, and I'd play a heap more. I probably didn't. I had 1 round with you. I think that was it leading up, and for me, it's that. And I did it on that day at Te Puke. I said to you, I probably wouldn't normally hit driver here, but this is a good chance to test it. So yeah, I'd play more, which I'm planning to do over summer anyway. I'll see Bryce Hamer and Matt Henderson and see if they can do anything with the body, and I'll do the work. I was thinking about you. I must admit, if I was going on a boys' trip to Auckland, I've always gone Titirangi. You'd have to play Titirangi. I love that course. It's hard. Doesn't suit my game. But I actually beat Jim Cusden round there. I'm not sure if I've told you this, but Jim and I had a match, and he's a gun. And I think I beat him 4-3.
Wow.
And I rang his wife straight away on FaceTime while I was next to him and just let him have it. And that's probably been the highlight of my golfing career, actually, beating James. But where I was actually going with that was Windross Farm. If you're going on a golf trip to Auckland, I think I said boys trip, and that's completely sexist. So if you're going on a golf trip to Auckland, Windross Farm has to be on your list. You would enjoy it regardless. I think it's a fantastic golf course. And so anyone that's listening and planning a trip to Auckland, Windross Farm, put on your list with Titirangi if you're playing there. What are your thoughts?
On what?
On that comment, on the statement.
Yeah, 100% agree. Play, and you could almost roll a dice for what tees you played, because they would all be equally as interesting. It's not overly long as in terms of some of the courses can get. We played the black tees, but there was a number of holes that were just over 300 meters. It does bring some decision making off the tee, so even the shorter hitters can play off the back tees. But yeah, you could flip a coin, and I would love to go and play the red tees or the yellow tees from there, because I think it would be equally as challenging, because as I said, the different lines that you'd take off the tee, and it brings different bunkers in play. I think, yeah, it's a really cool setup. There's lots of different options, and there's going to be a bunch of interesting pins just because of sort of the movement through the greens. There's going to be some cool pins that make it just a little bit more difficult than if everything's sort of in the middle. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, love it. Too good.
Cool.
Thank you, Scotty.
See you next time.
Yeah, man. See you. Ooh.